improved since Car Wars?
Car Wars, major, grading system is referred to as CRISP. They always want to know how crisp is a dealership, how crisp is a sales team. CRISP stands for, the C is a connection rate. The RI is request and invite. In other words, are you asking for the appointment? S is set. How many of those customers are you setting a firm appointment with? And P is pursue. They're measuring all of those metrics within your phone system. I'll say that when we first started with Car Wars, I wasn't measuring the P. I wasn't measuring the pursue. I wasn't measuring the outbound calls. I wasn't measuring the, when we say we're going to call you back, are we really calling you back? I was only concerned with the connection, the appointment setting aspects of it. I wanted them to measure the confirmation rate. I asked them to develop what we called CRISP instead of CRISP. It's been funny how that's developed through the years, but initially what I was really focused on or surprised by was our lack of connection rate. I've already talked about that some, but the big difference for us in the very beginning of our CRISP score is that I think we were only connecting with about 58% of our customers, and that made a huge difference as we improved by about 50% on that particular metric. Then through the years, what I'll also say is that, the pursue piece of it, the outbound call piece of it has become much more important for us in our stores because we've been able to see those stores that have a really high pursue rate, those stores that are really doing a great job with outbound calls and measuring their salespeople based on that metric. It makes a difference. And when you can see the results, then it suddenly becomes important to you. Early on, I would say the biggest difference maker was in our Connect score, the C part of the CRISP, and the long term, where I've seen the biggest difference is in that P, that pursue, the outbound piece of it.
How have your call connection processes improved since implementing Car Wars and working with the Car Wars team?
When a customer calls into your store and they're a sales opportunity, obviously you want to get them connected with somebody that can answer their questions, somebody that can make an attempt to set an appointment to get the customer to come in the store. One of the things that's been incredible about Car Wars is the ability to measure that specific score. You're not going to make an appointment if you can't get in contact with them, if you can't get connected with them. What we still work on today is focusing on that Connect score. Having 30 stores that are all on Car Wars makes it really easy for us to see the people that aren't performing well. If you aren't performing well, then you stick out like a sore thumb. It has been interesting for me. 2 months ago, I called the general manager at our store and I said, do you understand that your Connect score is only 54%? And do you understand that you've got all the tools there at your disposal to figure out why your Connect score is so bad? And do you understand that it is going to make a huge difference if you can figure that out? He gets on Car Wars system. He gets on the system. He starts listening to every call that was not connected, looking at all the reasons why it was not connected, and made major changes at his store in the processes of how to deal with that. He had a broken bridge. So customers were calling in and they weren't getting connected because they weren't able to be transferred to the sales department. He had a receptionist who was very quick to send him to voicemail or take a message. It's enabled us to make sure that our incoming sales calls actually go to the sales department. It's enabled us to train our receptionist to make sure that she understands what's important, of what a connected call is or isn't, and it's made a drastic difference in our results at that store. I mean, that's just in the last 2 months of one store out of 30, where we've gone from a 54% connection rate to an 80% connection rate. And clearly it's going to make a difference in our results. We don't have what I would call a Keating Auto Group process of how you handle that. That's going to be based on the individuals that are in a specific store, the processes that are in a specific store. At our level, we're using the reporting, we're using the data to call up that GM and say, hey, what are you doing about this? How are you changing your processes? And because all the data is there, all the information is there, it's pretty easy for a GM to go in and go, whatever the reason is, we have a new receptionist and we haven't really trained her on what to do, or the power went out, and it caused a problem, or for some reason our bridge is broken, or we have a dead extension, or it's so much easier when you have the data to find the problems. When we have 30 stores at our level in our headquarters, our corporate headquarters, we're able to look at the reports and call the general manager up and say, hey, clearly you got an issue, look into the data, figure out what the problem is and fix it. It's been different at different stores. For the most part, we've been successful at fixing it.
Can you provide an example of how Car Wars has been a helpful tool with dealing with staff turnover? What about pursuing customers through outbound calling?
If a salesperson is successful, we have less turnover. If a salesperson is successful, then they are much less likely to leave our store. And Car Wars helps our salespeople be successful with those opportunities that they get over the phone. The data that we get out of Car Wars helps us train our salespeople, helps us to make sure that they are effective on the phones. And quite frankly, the training that you receive on how to handle a phone call is not much different than how you might handle an internet lead. And it's not that much different on how you help a customer when they're right in front of you out on the lot. And so that training is valuable. And I believe that has an impact on our turnover at the store. In today's environment, where we have so much data, as a group, we have a CDP, a new buzzword. We have a customer data platform, where we just have so much information about our customer base. We're able to use that in our stores to be much more effective on outbound calling. And Car Wars has really been on the forefront. Before we cared about outbound calling, it was a big deal to them. They, to a certain degree, kind of clued us into how big of a deal it was for the success of a dealership, I'll say of a modern dealership. And, since we have all this customer data information, we're able to go in and be way more effective with our outbound calls, to the point of, I'll just give a few examples, but we might have a used car manager that says, hey, I'm light on Ford Broncos. I can't find him at the auction. I'll pay top dollar for Ford Broncos. Our salespeople can look up in the system and call our customers who own Ford Broncos and see if they're interested in trading them in. Stellantis might come out with a huge rebate on a Jeep Wrangler. We now have the information to be able to make outbound calls to those consumers who have expressed interest in a Jeep Wrangler. be able to offer them something that might make them an opportunity for us. So we're able to now pursue our customer base in a different way and at a different level than we ever could before. We used to only deal with those customers that were coming to us. I feel like we were only on defense, really, because we're only waiting on the customer to call or the customer to show up or the customer to send us an opportunity. We've really had our eyes open through the last handful of years on how big of a difference it can make for our store as we reach out and create those opportunities through pursuing our customers through the phone, which is measured by Car Wars and graded and scored by Car Wars, but it's really been able to help us make use of our customer data.
How do you overcome resistance to change and ensure buy-in from dealership staff when implementing new tech solutions?
There's so many different technologies out there right now. There are so many different vendors who think they've got the next best thing. There's so many different manufacturers coming to us going, oh, this is going to be the future. Whether it's digital retailing, selling cars online, for a long time it was, everybody was saying, hey, we need to, customers are going to buy cars online like they buy a book on Amazon. We haven't seen that to be the case, as an example. But lots of different technologies have come and gone through the years. I consider us to be what I would call an omni-channel retailer. I don't care how a customer wants to buy a car. I just want to sell it to them. I want to communicate with the customer however they want to communicate with me, however they want to be communicated with. One of the great things about Car Wars is their ability and history of adapting to working with dealerships as the consumer wants to communicate in different ways. They've been spectacular at that. As far as my sales staff, clearly you're going to have full range of reactions to that. I'll say we've got some old dogs who don't want to learn new tricks. And as long as we got some people who have been with us for a really long time, and they have a huge customer base, and they've got a lot of repeat and referral business. And as long as they're successful, they don't want to get involved in the new and latest technology. I'm not going to force it as long as they're successful, as long as they're making it happen. But we have a lot of new salespeople on the other end of that spectrum, kind of some Gen Zers that they're trying to figure out how to find their niche, how to make their mark in our business, how to be successful in the face of all these other people who've been doing it a long time and have a big customer base. It's all about the new technology for them. That's great. We want to have the opportunity for all of it. We want to be omni-channel retailers. We want to sell whatever the customer wants to buy. We want to sell it. However they want to buy it is how we want to sell it, how we want to communicate with them. It is a challenge for us to work with our sales staff, but our response has been more of making it an opportunity. If you want to open the door to this new opportunity, if you want to make that your niche, then more power to you. We want you to be successful in it, and we help you with it. And if you don't want to go there, then you run the risk of being left behind. We're not going to force you. And I think that's been a healthy response to it, and it's been fun. We've had some salespeople that have been drastically successful selling cars on social media, as just one example. We've got some salespeople that have been really successful becoming known for being an EV expert. We've got salespeople that don't care to sell an EV. We've got some salespeople that don't care to be on social media. There's a customer for every car out there, and there's a salesperson out there for every customer. It takes all types. We just want to be able to offer all things to all types, and that's what we strive to achieve. It just means trying to make sure that we have someone who is game for whatever the latest and greatest happens to be.
Can you describe the improvements in overall customer experience at your dealership since implementing Car Wars?
Traffic management is such a big deal to us. It's so amazing to realize how many times the ball gets dropped when a customer is trying to reach out to us, any dealership. And it's not specific to us, it's specific to all businesses, not just dealerships. This is a competitive market. This is a competitive business. Just as an example, I think there are 24 dealerships in the city of Houston. We're one of 20. It's very competitive. If you don't have Car Wars, if you don't have the ability to measure those differences, then you're behind. When I think about the differences that we made when we first implemented Car Wars, of actually measuring how often we were able to take care of a customer versus I was shocked at how often we failed at taking care of the customer. I'm choosing to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. We have greatly increased the rate at which we are taking care of customers.